following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
My name is Jasmine, and I am a recovering drug addict.
My name is Richie Farrell, aka the Old White Junkie.
And we are your hosts for Exit Team Nashua.
Our mission is to bring recovery into the living room.
Last year, over 72,000 Americans died of an accidental overdose.
That's almost 200 Americans every single day.
We will bring you guests with real-life experiences with addiction and recovery. Welcome to Exit Team Nashua.
Hi, welcome to Exit Team Nashua. I'm Bobby. I'm going to be the host for tonight. Jasmine is unable to make it, but she's with us in spirit and, random phone calls. But, it's going to be a great show tonight. We got Janelle on. Janelle is a recovery advocate. So if you want to talk a little bit about what that means for you.
So I work in the field of addiction treatment. I've been in recovery for almost 4.5 years now. I strongly believe in the treatment, different sorts of treatment. I work with the maintenance stage of change, the part after treatment when people get out and, what do they do now? So I think that's really important because resources like that weren't available for me, or I couldn't find them when I got into recovery. So,
So do you want to, getting into recovery, I get it because when I got out of the first 30 days, it's what do I do now?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But what was before that first 30 days? How did you end up in recovery?
So, long turmoil of stories, compounded one after the other, but essentially the state of New Hampshire decided it was a better idea for me to get into recovery than to not. So right. a little nudge from that, but after a little while of running from the law, I finally. The last day that I used, actually, I was about 20 feet away from my destination point, per se, and my probation officer ended up pulling over in that exact moment. So that was kind of, if there's any sort of, people talk about spiritual awakenings, right? Yeah. If there's any sort of spiritual awakening that I had, that would probably be that exact moment of intervention where I don't know what could have happened then, so it was kind of she pulled over and was like, "Are you done?" And I'm kind of no, but I mean, I guess I have no choice right now. So, after a little while of, a little spin dry behind the bars, I
always fun.
Yeah.
Always fun.
I ended up going to a treatment center, a transitional living center. And it was a 90-day program. I decided I needed about 5 months there. After riding that out for a little bit, that was really trying to being in, in that sort of environment, and especially where I was one of those women that, my whole life, I'm I'm one of the dudes, I hate women drive me nuts. That's, a whole other story in and of itself. But living with 14, 15 other women, kind of gave me a little gratitude when I finally left there. So I don't know. It's everything happens for a reason, and I strongly believe that. But I've always been one of those people that thought I was I would say that I was everything happens for a reason, but not really understanding what I was saying. But I think recovery kind of slapped me in the face with, oh yeah, everything does happen for a reason.
And I was gonna say, so that just hit on a bunch of stuff that I think is really important, right? So the first one. When she asked, "Are you ready?" and you said no, right? Yeah. Because I hear it over and over and over. It's you can't do this until you're ready, until you're ready, until you're ready. And sadly today, people die before they're ready.
Yeah.
And I've seen people go into treatment that weren't ready and something switches in them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's that fear that keeps you out.
Yeah.
You know, and then like even the courts, right? So like I'm sure you see it throughout the community, right? When people go for court and then everybody's like, all right, they're gonna go back out. You know what I mean? Like that's us like pre-labeling those people to fail.
Yeah, exactly. And I say that all the time, like, because it is kind of, I'm a part of a 12-step fellowship, and it is kind of one of those things that said is like, oh, you can't do this until you're ready. Like, I don't entirely believe that, because exactly what you said, like, there were circumstances in my life that happened. I wasn't at the point where I wanted to stop, but because of situations that happened, like, even family members wanting people to get into treatment, and they get into treatment and the whole time it's resistant, and like you said, one day it could just snap, like something makes sense. So
that's kind of like my story, right? So like my family told me like, hey, you really need help. You know what I mean? Like I was not doing too hot, as we usually are, right? And like the whole time, the first time in treatment, I'm like, I'm gonna drink when I get out, I'm gonna smoke weed when I get out, because I'm just a heroin addict. You know what I mean? Like this isn't a big problem for me. You know, and I ended up going to an aftercare place up in Nashua for a little bit. Left after 2 months, went home, drank, right? And like you could say that whole time I wasn't ready, but at least that seed was planted. So when I burned my life to the ground pretty quick, like 3 weeks. Yeah, like I was ready. You know what I mean? And I knew where to go.
Yeah. And I mean, I'd been introduced to meetings when I was like 16, 17. Like, so that was another seed like planted long before I had even thought about starting to grow it, So like there's always been situations that I've seen that there's opportunities, but I mean, like I say to, people at my work all the time that, I mean, you can like, I just totally lost my train of thought, but talking about and I lost it.
Were you going in the lines of, whatever gets you in the door is a good thing? You know what I mean? And like, because I know I've seen it over and over too, of people that go in, they don't want to be there. They're miserable, which like if you're in early sobriety, you probably are. You know what I mean? Let's be real. It's not the funnest, right? And then at some point somebody says something and it clicks, and then you want it. You know what I mean? And it could be, courts getting you there. It could be your family getting you there. It could just be like you're cold. You're homeless and it's winter and like you want a bed.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I've seen that work for people too.
Oh yeah. My last treatment facility, there were the last place that I worked at, that I mean, it was my first experience with seeing like what the numbers actually were. Like there were a lot more people in the wintertime. And I remember that. Like I was homeless in Manchester for a while. Like I was homeless in Manchester. I used in Manchester, and I stopped using in Manchester. So I also hear like along that lines, like that like a lot of people, including myself, will chase like the geographical cure, right? Like, and I don't believe that, because I'm in the same place. Like I lived on the same street that I was homeless, that I was sleeping outside of,
So so I get that, but like originally I'm from Connecticut, right? I got sober right here in Nashua. Could I have gotten sober in Connecticut? Yes. Would it have been a lot more difficult for me? Yes.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I get the whole geographical career. Like if I move and I do nothing, nothing's gonna change.
Yeah.
But I think moving to a place where all you meet is sober people. You know what I mean? Like that's your friend group, that's your network, that's your fellowship.
Yeah.
And you're doing work on yourself that's necessary for recovery. Like I think that's a difference. You know what I mean? Like not to say that you can't get sober in your backyard.
Yeah.
But
now, did you use when you came to Nashua?
No.
So you were in recovery when you got here?
Yep. Like, so I got up here April of 2016, stayed for 2 months, went home, relapsed, came back. August 6th is the day I came back to Nashua. August 1st is my sober date.
Yeah. See, my Manchester experience is That's just a small part of my story.
Mhm.
I'm from Mass originally, so
Yeah.
I kind of get that too. Like I get both ends of the spectrum. It's just you know, I say that about Manchester because that's one of the things that I do hear people say is that
Yeah.
like, well, I can't, you know, I can't get, you know, I can't stop doing this in say Manchester or Nashua or like,
Yeah.
you know, wherever somebody's from, like because of like they were using there. But
Mhm.
I came from Massachusetts. A lot of my using was in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
And I did the geographical cure and like Manchester was going to save me and
Yeah.
Manchester, you know, like, but that wasn't my reality that,
Mhm.
you know, Manchester specifically saved me. Like
Mhm.
it eventually was, but like I did
Yeah.
use up here too. So
No, and these are like, I think all these things are huge to talk about, right? Because like the people that are watching, you know, there's family members that watch of their kids, loved ones, whatever, struggling with addiction, right? And there's these preconceived and like rattled off facts a lot, right? Of like, oh, you can't stay sober and where you're at, you know, oh, they gotta want it first.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and these are things that like aren't necessarily true,
Yeah.
you know, and this is really good info for them to have.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what's something you talked about, you know, the maintenance phase, right, of recovery.
Yeah.
So what does that look like for you and how do you think we can improve upon it? Because I know a lot of kids that, you know, they're doing great in treatment. You know, they go for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. You know, they go home, they think, oh, you know, I got, you know, this support group that I can go to. You know, I know where to go. I know this friend who's sober, right? And like 2 weeks later, they call me and they're, you know, they're
Yeah.
using again, right? And like it's because we're not talking about the maintenance phase. So like, what do you see that we can improve upon that?
I mean, for me, it was the social support. Like that's really like the core of what's maintained my recovery is that, you know, having other people around. Like I'm a social creature. We're humans. We're all social creatures too.
Yeah.
So, you know, as much as I always thought that, you know, I marched to the beat of my own drum and I'm like, you know, nobody else is like me. I'm totally individual.
Terminally
like,
unique or something.
unique. Yeah. And, you know, but then realizing that like, hey, when I hang out with other people that are doing this, like it is, you know, addictive per se, you know, like, and I mean, I think like, you know, when people do get out of treatment and everything, like I think connecting to something, like connecting to, you know, somewhere where there are other people, like not even, you know, not even necessarily like meetings, like, but getting in a place where there are different resources and that
it's
you know,
community. I'm gonna channel my inner Jasmine because
Yeah.
I don't know if you've watched the show, but she always talks about like the opposite of addiction
is connection. Yeah.
right? And it's that whole thing. Like all I'm looking for in active addiction, all I am is alone. You know, it doesn't matter if I'm in a room full of people, I'm alone.
Yeah.
You know, I can't connect to another human being, right? And I also feel like they don't want to connect with me
Yeah.
in active addiction, you know? And then I got sober and I met people that all they want is truly to help,
Yeah.
you know, and to be there for me. And like, that's the thing that we carry forward. And like, that's the thing I think that's lacking.
Yeah, and the famous like, what do you want when people like actually reach out to us, like when we first get into recovery, like, well, what do you want from me? You know,
Yeah.
but in all reality, like you know, there aren't always people that want something. There are people that genuinely care.
Yeah,
So,
it's that whole I was so used to ulterior motives.
yeah,
You know, I was always used to like a sense of impending doom, the other shoe to drop. You know, okay, this person's being nice to me. This is going to end badly.
yeah,
You know, I couldn't get over that fact of like there are genuinely good people in this world
oh,
that
absolutely,
all they want to do is help.
yeah,
You know, and that's something that we don't talk about either.
yeah.
I feel like we only focus on the negatives.
Yeah, and that's really like even in my position right now in the field, like it is more of an emphasis on the positives because like yeah, we could sit around and talk about like, you know, bring up all the stuff in the past, like, you know, we're trying to like use the word outcome instead of consequences, because consequence is like a really heavy word, but like,
Okay.
I mean, that's just semantics, like,
Yeah.
but like
No, but I
kind
like-
of changing it in people's minds, like
It's like the difference between, what was it, substance use disorder and
it's substance abuse.
Substance misuse disorder and substance abuse disorder.
Yeah.
Trying to shift the verbiage.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because consequences has a negative connotation.
Yeah.
But like, I'm a big fan of saying consequences because they could either be negative or positive.
Yeah.
A positive consequence is I go to work every day, I work hard, I get a promotion.
Mm-hmm.
That's a consequence of my actions. It's just a positive, but nobody. If you hear consequences, you're like, ugh.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Oh, there's two arguments for every single thing that you could ever think of in this world. And, as people in recovery, we're really good at coming up with reasonings behind any sort of...
Yeah. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's good for us, you know what I mean? And, like, that's why it's very hard to talk to, like, other people and try to help them sometimes.
Yeah, and that's why we're some of, like, the most creative people that I've ever met, and they, like, some of the stuff that, that I've done in active addiction, that other people have done in active addiction, that I know, it's like, when else would you come up with some sort of, like, crazy scheme like that, or, like, there has to be some sort of, like, brain cells still moving to kind of come up with ideas like that. So channeling that, and like even like one good thing, can I also do a plug real quick?
Go for it.
Okay. I mean, I put you on the spot with that anyways, but so like being able to like channel that kind of creative energy, right? Like there are a few people, like my boyfriend included, that started this thing called the Sicker Than Most show that happens the third Saturday of every month. And that's at the Hope Center in Manchester. And it's kind of like, it's this thing where like, it's also called Addicts Got Talent.
Ooh.
So, for the most part, it's like, it's comedy, it's music, like it's a venue where people can, play their music and read their poetry and have a safe place to do it in. Because a lot of like, a lot of my friends are musicians, and, coming into recovery, it used to be like the bar scene or whatever, and like not wanting to be involved in that anymore. So it's a really good, place to kind of channel that. And again, like that's, that's that connection piece. Like,
I was about to say that's that community, and it's not so serious, because like one of the things that I thought about when I was getting into recovery was just like, dude, my life's gonna be so boring.
This is gonna suck.
Yeah, all I'm gonna do is work.
Yeah.
And like sleep.
Yeah.
And do these like meetings things. And like, I can say from my own experience, right? The past 2.5 years have been insane.
Yeah.
They have been some of the funnest times I've ever had. Like the most ridiculous times. Like stuff that you're just like, huh.
Yeah.
Huh. But like, that's another thing, right? So like, I think that it's going to be also serious. And then now you're telling me that I could go to something called Sicker Than Most, which vibes with me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh,
and like,
for sure.
I can meet people like me in a relaxed setting and like feel a part of.
Yeah.
And feel like a part of a community.
Yep.
That's awesome.
And eat free pizza.
Ooh.
Yeah. That's enticing for a lot of people.
Ooh, free food always brings people
Yeah.
So I'll see you there.
Yeah.
No, but okay, so community support for maintenance, right? What else is something that you see as like common pitfalls during this whole stage?
During the like maintenance part?
Yeah, because I assume a lot of people that are watching, they have loved ones come in and they see it happen. They do good for a while and they fall off. Like, what's something for them to watch out for? What's somebody who's watching it and can't figure out why they keep relapsing every 3 months? Because you know the deal.
Yeah.
It's like, 3 months, I relapse.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, like, what are some things that you can see to avoid, and, like, what you could do about it?
As, like, family members, or as, like, family members looking at it, or, like, as somebody actually in recovery?
Let's do both.
Okay.
Let's do both. Why not both?
I mean, in light of like what the family members could look out for, like honestly, they could look out for stuff and see that they're, not connecting to whatever has helped them, like, whether it is meetings or whether it's like, going to like a yoga sesh constantly or whatever, like, but in all reality, like, that's that powerlessness of the family too, like where watching it, like they can see all the signs, but like the more you push the person in recovery, the more they're going to push back, and then eventually it's but I mean, and not to be like Debbie Downer-ish, but like the reality of the matter is, like as long as like continuing to like, as the family, like talk to the person in recovery, like, keep an open line of communication, like, again, circling back around to like that connection piece, and like making sure that at least like, as family members and as, allies and people supportive of the person in recovery, like, I think like pushing away or, constantly demeaning or saying you're not doing this anymore, like that's not helping either, like, because I did it with my parents, and like it was constantly like, oh, you're doing this wrong and you're doing that wrong, and it's not their fault, like they just love me up the way that they know how to love me up, but like, but it pushed me away to say that, like, I'm not going to call them anymore because I don't want them to know that I'm not doing what they think that I should be doing.
Yeah, it's like the message can be right, but the delivery can be very wrong.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
There's a difference between pointing out something that somebody needs to work on and attacking them.
Yeah, exactly.
And when you love somebody, it's very hard to separate that.
Oh, yeah.
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 So, but like as far as like the person that does come into recovery, like, in that maintenance part, like my suggestion would be to like at least grab something and hold on to it, like grab somewhere that is like a safe place to find even like that one person, even like one friend that's also trying to do this thing, like trying to stay away from the scene and stay away from like situations that are probably going to drag them back in. Like, I mean, I know a lot of people, like I talk to a lot of people in my personal life and my professional life, and it's like, and it sucks because I'll see it. Like, I'll see, like, well, I'm going to, I like going to these meetings, but like, I'm really tired tonight and I'm not going to go to this one. And, like this friend I wasn't talking to, but like, I think it's okay. Like, I can still like go out with them or whatever. And, and it's not to say that like, it's not to say that people need to cut out everyone in their life that they had when they were using, but like knowing that certain situations, like, I mean, I won't go and hang out at a crack house right now for fun, like that's just not my reality. But like sometimes it's like thinking like pushing the bar and like, again, like it just exactly what Jasmine, wherever she is, would say. Like that it keeps coming back to that, like just that connection piece, and like and find something.
No, I get it. And like the whole hanging out with old friends, like I did it my first round of sobriety, didn't work out. My second round, like this round, I didn't see one of my old friends that I knew since I was 5 till I was a year and a half sober, because I just didn't trust it. And I wanted to make sure I was solid. Doesn't mean that I can never talk to him again. Like I could still talk to him every now and then, but it's just like, what's the motive behind it? Where am I going? Do I have the right motive to be there? And like really breaking it down. Because like I find that I lie to myself a lot. And I'm a very good liar to myself. I can't tell. That's awesome. I'm trying to think now. We covered a lot. We covered a lot. So what do you think's lacking in the treatment industry then? Let's go there. Let's
all right,
rip it up.
Let's take a look.
Because we got like 4 minutes. Let's just send it.
What's lacking? I think that. So I'm glad that there are more resources popping up in New Hampshire. Like, so that's what I would say, like several years ago, like even when I was trying to stop using, like my last few weeks was calling every single morning between 10 o'clock and 12 o'clock, I think it was, to check in to see if I had a bed while I was walking to dude's house.
Yeah.
You know, so that was the best way that I could get into treatment, you know, and now it is like they have different programs, like they have, you know, the Safe Station program you can go to, like they do have different resources, but you know, and the hubs that they're coming up with and everything, like I think it's good that it's growing and that it is becoming, you know, it's becoming more and more easily accessible. In Massachusetts, you go into the emergency room and you're off somewhere within 72 hours. I mean, that was my experience, like, you know, and I've been up here for like 6 years, so but that was like years and years of like whenever I was like at that point where I'm like, oh, I'm sick of sleeping on a ratty old mattress behind this building, or you know, I'm sick of doing this, like I would just walk to the ER and get into treatment. But when I came up here, that wasn't the story. But you know, I think that just like the more what I was taught, like coming into this field too, was like person-centered. Like, you know, kind of like making it about the individualized person and not like, you know, an entire treatment center. And I'm really trying to be very careful about stuff.
So we'll cut it then, right? So you just said people-centered. So if you could tell somebody out there who's struggling right now what they could do to reach out, what would you say to them?
I mean, to get into somewhere to start, like just because of my experience, I would say, you know, try going to one of the hubs, whether it's, you know, wherever you're around, like, you know, there's one in Nashua, one in Concord, one in Manchester, like getting into like some sort of like safe place to at least like get the conversation going about, you know, what could I do next? And that's just because that's my story, and that's, you know, what I've seen help for other people too, is making that first step instead of sitting alone and stewing on it and saying like, you know, I may or may not do this, like just taking action. Like it just takes that one step to kind of like, you know, push yourself in the right direction.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It's all about action.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what this program's about. And like, again, thank you for coming on.
Yeah.
It's already pretty much done.
Yep.
Wasn't too bad, right?
It was all right.
Was it?
Yeah.
Was that just all right?
Just the lights.
Oh. Oh, that's sad. You're making me sad.
No, it was good. It was
awesome.
Fun hanging out with you.
Awesome. And again, I think we had a really good conversation. You know, some people can really get some help now, especially families that are struggling too.
Yeah.
Because it's a family-centered disease.
It is.
Yeah. Okay, 17 seconds. Thank you for coming on. I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day. I know how busy you are. And again,
thank you for having me.
Don't worry about it.
All right.
My name is Jasmine, and I am a recovering drug addict.
My name is Richie Farrell, a.k.a. the Old White Junkie.
And we are your hosts for Exit Team Nashua.
Our mission is to bring recovery into the living room.
Last year, over 72,000 Americans died of an accidental overdose.
That's almost 200 Americans every single day.
We will bring you guests with real-life experiences with addiction and recovery. Welcome to Exit Team Nashua.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.